This is the New York Sports Machine on WICR.
Back here on AB Conversation, you're listening to that via the New York Sports Machine. Ben Zeno, the hero, Anthony Carlo, coming at you at a different format, I guess you could say. We're usually...
This is not WICR.
Nah, we're always usually at WICR. Today, you're listening to us, yeah, out of the broadcast booth, and therefore we are talking from the New York Sports Machine on behalf of the NCAA tournament. Ben and I just recapped the Midwest and the West. We're moving on to the East and the South, giving you our picks, or at least my picks and who Ben thinks he'll enjoy watching more.
Anthony, but before your picks, I don't know if we mentioned, this is the time of every teenage girl's dream.
Teenage girls? Uh-oh, what's going on now?
This is the Sweet 16.
You're right.
You know, they used to have that show and everything.
You know,
it's a party.
You know, as the music director, I know that you're focused. You like different types of music than the one I'm about to mention, but there is a big love in this person right here of the golden oldies. Big love of the oldies. And one song in particular was called by one of my favorite oldies artists. His name was Johnny Maestro. Unfortunately, he passed away. But the song was called Happy Birthday, Sweet 16.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what actually, you know, now that I think about the title, I don't know what the title exactly was, but, you know, the song went, you want me to sing it right now?
You can hit the vocals.
Happy birthday, baby, oh, I love you so. 16 candles. That was what it was called. It was called 16 Candles. But it was a great song. He was a great artist. I know I got off track there a little bit.
It's all right.
And off pitch, but anyway, let's get into the other end of this bracket. Now, I had a couple of, this is where I was hit hardest. I had a pretty good bracket going until we get over to this side and we enter the East, because I had Villanova advancing against North Carolina State, and I also had believe it or not, UNI advancing, University of
Irvine?
of Northern Iowa.
Oh, no, okay. It's not bad.
Against Louisville.
At least you got the Louisville part right. Did you? Well, Louisville is playing NC State, and Louisville's main person is Montrezl Harrell.
I didn't get the Louisville part right.
Oh.
I said UNI was going to advance. So.
Oh, you got both wrong. Okay.
Yeah, so I had UNI and Nova playing each other here in the Sweet 16.
It didn't happen. They didn't make it. They didn't get that invite. Well, they got the invite to the big dance. But, well, for Louisville, like I said, Montrezl Harrell, one of the top NBA prospects, lottery pick guy, and he will be a key factor in this game with his scoring, his energy, his rebounding. It goes around Montrezl Harrell, and this is a nice story with Louisville after that scandal with one of their players with the rape charge and everything. So after all that adversity in the locker room, to make it to the Sweet 16 like that, it's a pretty nice story to see.
It is, and they're going up against, also in this game, they also have somebody who they can use to help them out, and that's Terry Rozier, who had a big game over UNI in the round of 32. The last game that they played, and he had 25 points. So they can rely, on him. But the thing is that when you get streaky contributions, it's something you really can't rely on. It's something you can hope for to help you out, but in terms of really relying on him to come up with another big game, it may be a little unlikely. But if you had to pick one in this one, Ben, who are you picking?
I'm gonna go with NC State, even though NC State did beat Louisville this year, so they have that under their belt, even though it's different circumstances. But NC State with their two big men, the forwards of Barber and Anthony Barber and Turner.
Turner, yep.
That's a good duo for me.
Now they did. Now in their win over Villanova, they did out-rebound them 45-32. That may be something a little more difficult to do against someone like Louisville because of guys like Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah.
But we shall see. If they can control the boards, they'll definitely have a good shot to win this game. Obviously, I have to redo my bracket here because I had, as I said, Nova and UNI, and I had Nova going to the Elite Eight. But here now, seeing NC State and Louisville, I have to ride Louisville.
Okay.
I have to ride them into the Elite Eight here because I think, when I looked at this and before when I was looking at my bracket and I realized I had not picked Louisville, I kind of said to myself, what? Like, I think I picked this in my sleep.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, how could I have not picked Louisville to advance here and go, into the Sweet 16? But since if we're all allowed second chances, I think.
Of course.
So let me right my wrong here, and I'm going to pick Louisville, not only advancing to the Sweet 16 here, but further into the Elite Eight.
Now, Anthony, next in the Eastern Division Conference, whatever you would like to call it, it's Michigan State versus Oklahoma. Now, Michigan State, every year, this team's always in the tournament. This team's always makes it right, even though when their team does not seem as good, like this year, what are they, 8th seed?
Yeah, this year they did not.
7th seed, excuse me.
So, yeah, they had, this is the 13th time in 16 years they're back in the Sweet 16.
That's remarkable.
It's remarkable, but you're right. It's not as big of a game, as big of a year, I should say, as they normally, have had based on their players. But, if you look at, and they were a 7 seed, if you look at the type of team this is, and I'm going to make a very bold statement here. I have Michigan State going to the championship. So, and it's a bold statement because, as Ben just alluded to, they're not the most talented Michigan State Spartan team under Tom Izzo that we've seen in years.
Still Tom Izzo.
It's still Tom Izzo, exactly. And that's one big reason why I'm choosing them to go back to the championship. And we talked about Wichita State being hard-nosed as well. If you want to see gritty, if you want to see gutsy, and if you want to see one of the best defensive teams in the nation, look at Michigan State.
Tom Izzo always prided his team with defense. That's just, if you're going to Michigan State, you're going to play defense, and you're going to play it at a top level in the country. And that's what this team is focused on. And having a senior guard in Trice and Denzel Valentine, another leader on that team. And with Oklahoma, that's a big test too, because Oklahoma has Big 12 Player of the Year, Buddy Hield.
Yeah, they do, and they're 24-10. And just talking about Michigan State a little bit more, it may seem difficult for a team like that to go far in something like the tournament, because if you think about it, the tournament features just about every competitive team you could think of.
In every style of basketball.
Exactly, every style of basketball. But, Ben, something here has to speak for this, and that's the fact that this team, and you said it's remarkable, it really is, the last 16 years, 13 out of those 16 years, they've been in the Sweet 16. It says something about the program. It says something about the leadership. It says something about Tom Izzo and the coaching staff that is behind this Michigan State team, that it doesn't really matter who's on this team, who's playing, who advanced and left the team. There's still going to be a lock for you in the Sweet 16.
That's an excellent recruiting pitch. Yo, come, you're going to at least get to the Sweet 16.
Exactly.
Now let's just make our move.
Exactly. And, one thing, we relate everything back to the MAC because Ben and I go to Iona here. We see a lot of MAC-based basketball. And Steve Masiello, coach of the Manhattan Jaspers, said it about Tim Cluse. And I'm going to say it about Tom Izzo. It's not the players as much. It's the coach. And Masiello had a great quote. He's a great talker, and he had a great quote. Glover leaves. Machado leaves. Armand leaves.
Momo left.
Momo leaves. And Tim Cluse is still running one of the most high-powered offenses in the country, and we're still at the top of the conference here at Iona. So it shows you that when you're getting the guys in the right spots that they need to be, and you're coaching, the way that coaches like Tim Cluse coach, obviously Tom Izzo coaches, it doesn't always depend on the talent level of the players you have or the player class you have. It depends on how the team is coached.
But for this Michigan State-Oklahoma game, I'm going to go with Michigan State. But just to mention that Isaiah Cousins on the Oklahoma team from Mount Vernon, played at Mount Vernon, got shot over last offseason, and now he's in the Sweet 16. So big ups to Westchester basketball and Isaiah Cousins.
And Magic Johnson gives his team pep talks in the locker room. Did you know that?
Oh, that's dope.
And Draymond Green is texting players before games. So obviously we got some pretty important people buying into the Spartan Spartan philosophy here, and I'm one of them. I have them going up against Kentucky in the championship. But for this game, we'll move off of that one. Obviously, you know who I'm picking. It will be tough because, as Ben said, Oklahoma does have some key players who can impact this game. 6'8" forward Tashawn Thomas, who scored 18 points on 7 of 11 shooting against Albany, has he's a multiple skilled type player.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got size and skill. And Ryan Spangler, who had 9 and grabbed 11 boards in that game. So we'll move on to Duke and Utah. Now, they're going up against each other for the South at this point. Now, I was right on all fronts here, Ben.
Okay.
Kudos. Yeah, I got right. I was right on this one. I had Duke beating Gonzaga. No, I'm sorry, San Diego State. And I had, of course, Utah beating, Georgetown in this one. So, Duke, Ben. Duke is a team that always seems to have the firepower to succeed. However, they choke sometimes.
They do fall into that Duke motto of, yeah, we're Duke, but we're still a little bit inconsistent, even though they have the greatest coach in college basketball. And with that being said, even though it's Mike Krzyzewski, it's Duke, even though it's the name, they do have players to back that name up, and Quinn Cook and Jahlil Okafor and Justin Winslow coming off nicely. Without the other guy that left, Winslow been playing nicely.
You're talking about Jabari Parker.
No, not Parker, from the season.
Oh,
The dude that got released. I forgot his name.
Oh, because of the whole scandal.
Yeah.
The whole controversy, I should say. Tyus Jones also another big player on that
Suleiman.
team.
Sorry.
What was that?
It was Suleiman.
Suleiman, right?
Yeah.
Suleiman. So, as you said, Jahlil Okafor projected it as
Number one
in the NBA draft. 7 feet, 270-pound guy, and when he comes down the lane, it's like a freight train moving.
Yes, the Anthony mentioned when he comes down the lane. That's perfect because we talked about in the last segment how can another team stop Frank Kaminsky. If you move Jahlil Okafor outside of the block, you have a good chance of winning the game.
It's true.
That's what I have to say about Jahlil Okafor in Utah. But even though Duke's going to win that game. Even though Duke's going to win the game, I'll give Utah some advice.
So wait, we repeat that advice there. So you're suggesting to stand to as long as your feet are set to stay in the way of that freight train coming down the lane.
Move if Jahlil Okafor is outside of the block.
Okay, outside of the block, yes.
He will not do anything productive.
I mean, but now you look at Utah. Do they have anybody, who can really challenge?
It's going to take an army. There's only 5 players on the court. Now, I don't know if some bench players going to come off. I mean, the whole team, everybody attack Jahlil.
And then what's going to happen then is, obviously, this is not rocket science. If they double-team Jahlil,
somebody open.
They're going to have to do it very well with very, very sharp rotations because otherwise somebody's going to be open. And that's going to put it in the hands of Tyus Jones or Quentin Cook to step up big and make shots. And we know Tyus Jones can.
Tyus Jones, yep.
He put up 11.4 points, 3.5 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. We know Quentin Cook can, but Ben just delineated the smartest way to try and stop Duke, and really the only way is to try and take care of Jahlil Okafor and take him out of the game because nobody on Duke is averaging 17.7 points like he is. Nobody's averaging 9 rebounds a game like he is, and certainly nobody's shooting 66.9% from the field like Jahlil Okafor is. So you got to try and somehow take an approach to slow him down.
If Duke wants to continue as you're picking Duke to advance in this round as well as I. If Duke wants to make a real serious tournament run, this is the game for Grayson Allen to show up.
That's true. And for my bracket, I have Duke and Michigan State then moving on to not only the Elite Eight because then it'll be we'll move on to what. Before we jump ahead, let's move on to the last game.
Yep.
And just talk about UCLA and Gonzaga in the southern aspect of this tournament and look at who we have here. I mean, obviously, I can give you the pick that I wrote down. Will that change randomly in my mind right now? It may. But right now I have moving on is going to be Gonzaga.
Okay. Yeah, looking at your bracket, you seem right. That looks like a Gonzaga sign. And there's no, even though it's a smart pick to pick Gonzaga to move on and not get eliminated.
It is, and well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Gonzaga, has somebody on this team that we can look at, and his name is Kyle Wiltshire. And Kyle Wiltshire is a finalist for the Wooden Award. He had 47 points and 15 boards through the first 2 NCAA games. So when you got a player like him on your team who can do what he's done, he's obviously caught a hot streak here. And you look at somebody also in their starting lineup, Kevin Pangos, a 6'2" senior who's averaged 11.8 points per game and 2.7 rebounds per game and 4.9 assists per game. But in the tournament has had 34 points and 8 assists so far. You've got a couple of hot hands that maybe you can rely on to take this team further. And then if you look at UCLA, they were 22-13 this year. I think out of all the games, this is going to be another tight contest because you got guys on their team, like Bryce Alford and Norman Powell, who both averaged over 15 points per game this season. So, I have Gonzaga going. I feel pretty confident about that. But we shall see, and then it would be Gonzaga and Duke for the Elite Eight, and it would be Nova and Michigan State for the Elite Eight, and I would have Michigan State and Duke both advancing to the Final Four, and I would have the winner of that Michigan State-Duke game, call me crazy, Michigan State.
I'm not calling you crazy.
And I think that Duke may have a deep run this year, but I think by the time their choke comes along, it'll be in the Final Four. So we shall see. Right now, I have Michigan State and Kentucky in the championship. It may change. Obviously, I am not, by any means, tearing up this bracket here.
No, don't tear it up. Don't burn it.
No,
don't do it. But, Anthony, as we should do, we should wrap up the show. We should shout out New York Sports Machine. We should shout out NorthAvenueNation.com and WICR. YouTube WICR. Catch the videos on here for all our programs. Oh, yeah, New York, yeah. Put that New York Sports. Yep, we here. New York Sports Machine. AB Conversation. Different realm. Same world. Catch us.
Benzino, the Hero, Anthony Carlo, helping you get up to date on all of your NCAA tournament information. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of this big dance.